Good morning, class. So, yesterday we started with the difference between the primary and secondary data, and we have also started with the methods of collecting the primary data. In that, we have covered one method, that is direct personal investigation. As its name suggests that it is direct, we will make a direct contact with the informants, and then we collect the data personally from them. Then it is known as the direct personal investigation. It involves making a personal contact with the informants and collecting the data from them. Then that method of collecting the primary data is known as the direct personal investigation. We had covered that what is direct personal investigation. We have also covered the suitability of direct personal investigation, and also we have covered all the merits of direct personal investigation. Today we will start with the demerits of the direct personal investigation. So what are the demerits of direct personal investigation? First demerit is this method cannot be used when the area of study is large. See, we cannot use direct personal investigation when the area that we are studying is very large. We cannot visit each and every person and collect the data directly from them, as we have to create a personal contact with each and every person. And if our area of study is very large, for example, if we are studying the whole country, then it is not possible that we reach each and every person of the whole country, make a direct contact with each and every person of the country and collect the information from them. Okay, so this method is not useful when the area of study is large. The second point is this method is highly prone to personal bias of the investigator. See what happens when the investigator personally make a contact with the informants and he collects the information then from them. Then what he does, he does not cover each and every person of the of that particular area on which the study is being conducted, because there may be chances that he personally likes someone or he dislikes someone, so he will only include those people in his study with whom he is frank or he like those persons. Okay, and ignores those informants with whom he does not have any good relation, or if he finds that the opinion of some of the informant is not suitable for his study, then he may ignore that information that is being provided by that informant. Okay, so what happened in this case, that there are personal biases on the side of the investigator, and also the investigator can manipulate the information that is collected by him according to his own wishes, his own thinking, that what he thinks that is suitable for study, he will collect only that much data only, and he ignores the rest. And also he involve those informants in his study whom he find that he likes them, or whom he knows personally and he knows very well. So there are chances that there may be personal biases or partiality on the time on the side of the investigator. The second is this method is expensive in terms of money, time and effort. This method is very expensive, as we have to invest a lot of time to make a personal contact with every person, reach every person, and also we have to invest money, as we have to visit to different persons and we have to collect data about each and every person, and lot of efforts are required, as we have to be very keen observer, we have to be polite, we have to know the all the conditions of that particular place. So we need to do many efforts to collect the information. Okay, and the last point is requires skills and training. Requires skills and training, as we have studied that for this method to be successful, you need to possess certain kind of skills, like you must be polite, you must be keen observer, you must have the whole information about the local conditions. So all these skills are required by the investigator. And secondly, proper training is also required, as a person must know that how the information is collected from the respondents without consuming too much time of the respondents, and also he must know that how to get the information from the informants, because sometimes informants are reluctant and they are hesitant to share the information, and also they are ignorant that they don't want to share the information. In that case, what happens, the investigator must be properly trained that what questions he must ask from the informants, and what should be the order of asking the questions, and how he can get his answers in the limited time period without consuming too much time of the informants. So these all are the demerits of the uh, direct personal investigation. Now the second method of collecting the primary data is the indirect oral investigation. As its name suggests that it is indirect, that we do not have to make any direct or personal contact with the respondents, or we can say the informants. Informants means the person from whom the information is collected, or who possesses the information or possesses the data is known as the informant. Okay, so in this case we do not have to make any personal contact with the informant, and it is oral investigation. Means we orally ask the information, whatever information we collect over here is in oral form. Okay, so indirect oral investigation is the method by which information is obtained not from the persons regarding whom the information is needed. It is collected orally from other persons who are expected to possess the necessary information. These other persons are known as witnesses. See, indirect oral investigation method involves the collection of information from some other person. Like if we want to get information about any particular person, and we cannot reach that person, as the area of our study is very large, or that person is located somewhere else, and we do not know that person personally, then what we will do, we will ask any of his friend or any person who know him very well. Okay, we will get information about that person from some other person who knows that person. Okay, so the person about whom the information is to be collected is the concerned informant. Okay, and the person who provides the information about that informant is known as the witness. Means if I want to collect information about any person, I want to know about any person, and I do not know him personally, and also he is far away from me, then what I will do, if I know any of his friend, I will approach that friend, and I will ask that how that person is, and I can collect the information about that person. Then it is known as the indirect oral investigation. Okay, so the person who provides the information about some other person, like if I am asking my friend about his any of his friend. Okay, so my friend will be the witness who is providing me information about his friend about whom I am asking, and the person about whom I am asking, it will be the concerned informant. Okay, so what are the situations in which this particular method is suitable? This method is suitable particularly when the field of investigation is relatively large. See, when the field of investigation is very large and we cannot reach each and every person, we cannot interview that person personally. So what we do, we approach any person who knows that person, who has information about that person, and collect the information from that person indirectly. Okay, we do not reach the person about whom the information is to be collected. We collect that information from someone else who possesses that information about the concerned informant. Okay, second is, it is not possible to have direct contact with the concerned informant. See, if in cases I have told you, like if I'm in Pilibhit and I want to collect information someone about someone who is living in Delhi or in Mumbai, so it is not possible for me to have a direct contact with that person, because I don't have any phone number or any email address of that person. So what I will do, I will approach any person who knows that person, any of my friend, or any person that maybe who knows about that person, and then I will collect the information from my friend, or from that person who is having the information about the person who is living in Delhi. Okay, so if it is not possible for me that I cannot reach that person from whom the information is to be collected, then I will collect the information from the witnesses. Okay, and the third is the concerned informants are not capable of giving information because of their ignorance or illiteracy. See, the concerned informants, and as I told you, are the persons about whom the information is to be collected. So if these informants are not capable of giving the information about themselves, because they are very ignorant or they are very illiterate. For example, if in a factory, the workers working at the lower level, they are very illiterate, and if I want to know something about their work, they are not capable enough to answer my questions. So what I will do, I will approach their head, who knows about each of the worker, and he will provide me the information about his workers. Okay, so in that case also, we have to collect information from someone else or from the witness, when the concerned informants are not capable enough of providing the information, because either they are ignorant or they are illiterate. And the last point here is investigation is complex in nature, that only experts can give information. See, the type of investigation we are doing is very complex, and we cannot collect the information from any person, any ordinary person. Only the expert can give us information. Then in that case, we have to uh, take the information from the expert or the witness. For example, if any work is done on, any experiment is being done by the scientist, and the scientists that are working at lower level will not be having so much information about that project, but the experts who are guiding them will have the whole information about each and every scientist and what the work is going on. Then I will do, I will uh, approach that senior scientist, and I can get the information about all the other scientists and all the work they are doing from him. Okay, so if the investigation is complex in nature, then this type method is used for collecting the primary information. Now this was the indirect oral investigation. What are the situations in which this method is suitable? Now we will be covering the merits and demerits of the indirect oral investigation. What are the merits? First is, this method is less expensive than direct personal investigation. See, this method is less expensive from direct personal investigation, because in direct personal investigation, we had to visit each and every person, we have to make a personal contact, and then we have to collect the information. But this method is very convenient. If we have any person who knows the concerned informant, then we can directly collect that information from that person. We don't need to visit each and every person personally and collect the information from him or her. Okay, second is, it is very useful where the field of inquiry is large enough. It is very useful when the field of inquiry is large enough, because if the field of inquiry is very large, we cannot reach each and every person, we cannot make a personal contact with each and every person. We might not be knowing each and every person. Okay, so in that case, this method is useful. Third is simple and convenient method. This is very simple method, that if we can't reach someone, we can ask the information from the witnesses. And secondly, it is convenient also, because we can collect the information on our convenience from those persons whom we know personally, and those persons are also having the information about that particular informant, from whom we have to collect the information. Okay, so it is very convenient that according to our convenience, we can collect the data from the persons whom we are whom we can easily approach, and whom we can reach conveniently. Fourth is, this method is relatively free from personal bias of the investigator. See, what we had studied, that there are personal biases on the side of investigator in direct personal investigation, because he will make a personal contact with each and every person, and he will include only those persons whom he personally like, and he can ignore the person whom he don't like personally. But in this case, he do not make any personal contact with any person, so he do not know any person personally. He is collecting information from some other person. So what will happen, there is no chances that he will be biased or he will be partial about the informants, because he do not know anyone personally. Okay, but there are chances that the person, that the witness who is providing the information, may be biased, may be partial. See, if we ask any information from someone, what happens, they give us only that information that they want to share with us. Okay, if I'm asking my friend about his any of his friend, then he will tell me that much only, that he want to share with me about his friend. He will not give me the whole information. Same happens in this case also. See, I am not partial, because I don't know that person personally. I don't know my friend's friend personally. Okay, so whatever my friend told about his friend, I will take at it as it is, because I will accept everything that he's telling to me. But my friend will do, he can hide some information from me. So there can be biasness on his side, but not from my side. Okay, so here the merit is that there, it is relatively free from personal bias of the investigator. But if we talk about the demerits, then there is a possibility of personal bias of the witness giving information. As I told you, he will not give me the whole information. He will give me the information that he wants to share. Okay, first is the data collected from this method is relatively less accurate, because it is obtained from persons other than the concerned informants. Yes, because the if we collect data personally, we make a personal contact with the respondents or the informants, then the data collected is accurate. But if we are asking someone else about that person, then there may be chances that the data may not be accurate. Second, I have discussed. Third one is, this method may lead to doubtful conclusions due to carelessness of the witness. See, if the witness is not providing me the whole information, he is being careless in providing me the information, then whatever the conclusion I will draw by my study may be uh, doubtful, or they may not be the exact conclusions. Okay, and the last is, response may be poor. See, this is obvious when if we go to ask about someone from some other person, like if we are asking someone about their friends or any other person they know, they are very reluctant, they are very hesitant to share the information. They do not want to share the information, because uh, they feel that if they share any wrong information, then it will come to them. Okay, so what they do, they are very less responsive in that cases. So response may be poor. People may not be ready to respond on such type of information. They will not be ready to share such type of information. Okay, so today what we have covered indirect oral investigation, its suitability, merits and demerits. So that's all for today. Thank you.